Welcome everybody to Tropical Weather Update. It is about 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on November the 9th, 2022. This update is related to what was Tropical Storm Nicole that has now just been upgraded to Hurricane Nicole. On the map you see in front of you is an infrared satellite view from Radar Omega, which I love. And if you pay the $5 a month, you get this desktop access. Eventually I'll change this to radar, but I have it set for satellite right now because I like the way it looks. It shows the hurricane warnings in purple and the tropical storm warnings in yellow on the map, as well as the predicted path. As you can see, Hurricane Nicole is predicted within the next 12 hours or so, early on Thursday morning, to make landfall in the Port St. Lucie area. And I'll show you the model graphics. Nothing is deviating from that course. That's almost certain that that's where landfall will occur, is in the Port St. Lucie area. Looking at this map, though, you can see most of the heaviest activity related to this storm is to the north of it. So, I mean, if you look up here, there's a lot of tropical storm force winds in that area of the storm, not necessarily right next to the center where you're going to have a lot of the impact. So Daytona Beach, Palm Coast, St. Augustine, all the way south to Port St. Lucie, anywhere north of that area is probably going to receive the largest impact from this storm. One, because the onshore circulation, on the counterclockwise circulation, is going to bring the wind and minor storm surge coming onshore, which causes coastal flooding and beach erosion. But as I just showed you, much of the activity related to this storm is located to the north of the storm. Let's take a look, though, at the satellite view right now. This is a satellite view, but I have the GOES. Hold on one second here. This is band 13 of the GOES East infrared satellite. And if you look at this storm does not look organized. Again, you see much of the convection and storm activity with the higher cloud tops are located well to the north of the center. The center, you can't even really tell on this map where it is. There certainly is no eye. There's no eye wall. So if I were to just look at a satellite image of this storm, I would say it's a tropical storm. But hurricanes are based on actual measurement of wind speeds, and the hurricane hunters have found wind speeds in some portion of the storm at 75 miles per hour. And therefore, they've upgraded it. Also, the central pressures dropped to 980 millibars, which is 5 millibars lower than the 4 p.m. advisory. So I think based on that data, they've upgraded it to a hurricane. But it does not look impressive on the satellite, and it actually looks like it's becoming more disorganized. I don't believe this is some sort of, eye wall replacement cycle. There is no eye wall, and most of the activity, the most significant storm activity related to this storm is well to the north, and very little of it is to the south. I believe a lot of dry air is being pulled in the south part of the storm. So from my perspective, I don't consider this a very dangerous hurricane. This is a minimal hurricane. They really are stretching it to even call it a hurricane, but the data says what it says from the NOAA hurricane hunters, and therefore they've upgraded it to a hurricane. All right, let's see, what else do we have on here? As you can see, the model guidance, only one of them had it at a Category 1 hurricane. Most have it around 60 knots max and then going downward. So this storm likely is not going to strengthen any further before making landfall in the Port St. Lucie area. The track guidance all along has been very, very consistent, straight at Port St. Lucie. The Martin St. Lucie County area is where the storm will make landfall. But again, the center of the storm in this situation, unlike major hurricanes where the eye wall is the most intense part of the storm, in this storm, much of the more intense part of it is well to the north, far away from the center of circulation. So all the way up the Florida East Coast to Jacksonville should be really taking precautions and finishing your preparations, because you're going to start getting hit with some significant weather in the next 12 to 18 hours. As you can see, and that this is reflected in the tropical storm force wind probabilities, which are all to the north of where the center is making landfall, and a little bit to the south, of course. But you can see based on where the center is located. So like if the center makes landfall here, look at look at how much tropical storm force winds are expected to be experienced to the north, while to the south it's very little. So all of this area from about St. Augustine southward may experience tropical storm force winds in the next 12 to 18 hours. Let me erase. Rainfall in the storm should not be as big of a deal as it was in Hurricane Ian. Hurricane Ian was moving very slowly through the state of Florida and dropped anywhere from 10 to 20 inches of rain in some locations. This map predicts 2 to 4 inches of rain in the mid to central to North Florida Peninsula, as well as into Georgia and South Carolina, and then eventually into the Pennsylvania, Kentucky, North Carolina, and even New York area as the storm moves further to the north. As you saw on this this track, as you can see, it goes all the way through the northeast United States, then through Nova Scotia and out to sea. But based on the information I read on the discussion, they're not expecting this to turn into some sort of extra tropical low or nor'easter that becomes a dangerous situation for the United States. But there will be significant effects from Nicole in the next 2 or 3 days all throughout the eastern seaboard. I just wanted to show you guys the storm surge maps once again. I did this on my final video for Hurricane Ian, and it was, prophetic in some ways, showing you the difference between the storm surge possibilities or risk on the west coast of Florida versus east coast. I mean, if you look at, for example, if the storm had hit Tampa Bay, there's a lot of, if Ian had hit Tampa Bay, it would have been a pretty disastrous situation. But the worst storm surge on the west coast of Florida is really the Fort Myers area, south of Fort Myers. And that came to fruition in Hurricane Ian, which was a Category 4, almost Category 5 storm. This is set for Category 1 right now, and you can still see the amount of storm surge that is possible, up to 9 feet or greater in the southwest parts of Florida. But on the east coast of Florida, my understanding is because of the shape of the continental shelf, you can see the storm surge risk in a Category 1 hurricane, even in Miami, West Palm Beach, Jensen Beach, Vero Beach, Sebastian. It gets into some yellow areas, but for the most part, the storm surge risk on the east coast of Florida is not that significant. And in a Category 1 storm like this, I do not expect significant storm surge. There will be some coastal flooding, some beach erosion, but until you get up into the Merritt Island area, which much of this is the Kennedy Space Center, and then further north is really where you start to worry about storm surge. And because the storm is so large, if you are in the Port Orange area, New Smyrna Beach, you may be receiving evacuation orders in certain areas. Heed those orders. But this is the first place within the east coast of Florida where I think you need to be concerned about storm surge from this storm. And as you go further north, I think it becomes less and less relevant because of where the storm is going to make landfall in Port St. Lucie. But I'm sure that there will be effects all the way up Crescent Beach, Satellite Beach, St. Augustine, and then the Jacksonville area, as you can see, is where we really start to see reds again, like we see on the southwest coast of Florida. So again, looking at the storm surge situation, where the storm is going to make landfall way to the south here, there's not a lot of storm surge risk. So that's good news. So not a lot of rainfall, flooding risk, not a lot of storm surge risk from the storm, and the wind risk is going to be minimal. Minimal Category 1 hurricane, which is what we predicted in the video 3 days ago when I did a video related to the storm. They said it would be on the borderline of a strong tropical storm and a minimal hurricane, which is the case. Certainly the hurricane hunters have determined it's a hurricane, but the satellite imagery, the storm does not look good. It looks disorganized. It looks like it's getting worse, less organized as it gets closer to the United States mainland, which is great news for that area. That being said, if you live in the Port St. Lucie area, Martin, St. Lucie, Palm Beach County area, if you live in a mobile home, for example, you may want to heed the local authorities' warnings and take shelter in a safer place, whether it be a friend's house or one of the designated hurricane shelters, if you live in a modular or mobile home, because 75-mile-an-hour gusts can do damage to those structures. That's about all I have for now. I think we've dodged a big bullet here in Florida. Certainly Ian was a much, much, much worse situation on the southwest coast of Florida and in central Florida than this storm is going to be. that being said, for November, this is a pretty significant weather event, and take heed to your local authorities if they're recommending you to evacuate. Do it. But overall, this is not the worst case scenario. And I just wanted to make another update video since it did become a hurricane. I had just made a video when it was a tropical storm, and I basically had to erase that video. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Press like on the video if you don't mind, and subscribe if you're not. And we will talk soon. I will do another update if necessary, but this is looking like it's pretty straightforward what's going to happen here, and I don't anticipate a lot of change to the track or to the strength before landfall early tomorrow morning in the Port St. Lucie area. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Bye-bye.